Greetings, Code Monkeys, and welcome back to Coded Lock Films. It is Superhero Month once again here on this channel. Before I begin, I just want to clarify something about Superhero Month from now on, in case any of you were wondering. In the past, Superhero Month has taken place in June. I am now having it take place in July instead. I've done this primarily because superhero movies have become kind of a staple of the Hollywood summer movie season, so delaying Superhero Month until July will enable me to review more superhero movies within Superhero Month itself, because more of them will have come out. With that clarification out of the way, I am now going to offer you some of my thoughts on the newest Superman movie, Man of Steel.
Code Monkey, get up, get coffee. Code Monkey, go to job. Code Monkey, have boring meeting with boring manager Rob. Rob say Code Monkey very diligent, but his output stink. His code not functional or elegant. What do Code Monkey think? Code Monkey think maybe manager wanna write goddamn login page himself. Code Monkey not say it out loud. Code Monkey not crazy, just proud. Code Monkey like Fritos. Code Monkey like Tab and Mountain Dew. Code Monkey very simple man with big warm fuzzy secret heart. Code Monkey like you. Code Monkey like you.
Let me start off by talking about what I liked about this movie. First of all, I thought the special effects were very, very, very impressive. Both the use of superpowers and the fighting in this movie looked particularly good. This is the first movie that I've seen in a while that really knows how to use shaky cam effectively. Personally, I've never been that big on shaky cam, but it does serve a purpose. The way shaky cam should be used is to disorient the viewer, but a lot of movies I've seen nowadays have tended to use the shaky cam a lot. And this movie, while it does have shaky cam, I do not feel it is overused, and I feel that its disorienting effects are used well. I also think that Henry Cavill makes a very, very good Superman. When he's given the opportunity to do so, that is. And with that being said, there's not really a whole lot about this movie that I particularly enjoyed. There's really no other way to say this, but I found this movie to be incredibly dull. There were actually several points during the viewing where I found myself fighting the urge to nod off. That's not a good thing. And what that urge to nod off really comes down to in this movie is the atmosphere. I really did not like the way this movie felt. Almost everything about this movie, from the way it looks, to the way it is shot, to the way the actors play their roles, feels incredibly downbeat, dreary, and sedate. And that's just not what I think of when I think of Superman. Don't get me wrong, a dreary atmosphere can be a good thing, and I think you can even use it effectively in a Superman movie, sort of. But the problem is that the dreariness in this movie is almost completely non-stop. To illustrate a point, while I was taking notes on the movie, I actually kept a running tally of how many times people smiled in this film. 26 times total. 26 measly smiles in a Superman movie. And every single one of those smiles is confined to about 3 scenes total, each one numbering about 2 minutes maximum. 6 minutes of levity in nearly 2.5 hours of film time is not enough. All the dreary atmosphere in the world will have absolutely no effect on the viewer if there's never anything to contrast it with. If your movie is downbeat and dreary and depressing all the time, there's nothing to keep your audience interested. If we never get the impression that things could be or even used to be happy, then there's no hope that the movie will turn out happy in the end. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying every movie has to have a happy ending or anything like that, but a Superman movie does. It's Superman. There has to be some levity, there has to be some enthusiasm, or it's just not gonna feel like a Superman story. And the other thing that keeps this from being an effective Superman movie is the way that Superman himself is written. What some superhero movies don't seem to understand is that a superhero is more than just a set of powers. It's the person behind the set of powers that makes a superhero a superhero. And in this movie, Superman does a lot of really unsupermanly things. And past this point, I will be going into some kind of spoilery territory, so if you don't want to see that, then go away from this video. do something else. Have a sandwich, I don't know. I'm just gonna read directly from my notes here to give you a few examples of the unsupermanly things that Superman does in this movie. Okay, this is a good example. So there's this moment where Clark Kent is working in a diner, and there's like this trucker guy who's kind of sleazy and creepy, and he is being very sexually inappropriate towards their waitress, and he like pats her on the butt. And it's like, it's really creepy, right? And Clark Kent sticks up for the girl, and the trucker tries to shove him off, but of course, you know, he's Superman, so he can't do anything to him. Clark manages to not lose his temper, and he just sort of, you know, walks away from the situation once the girl is safe, which was good. That's a good way to do it, and I was actually enjoying that. But when the trucker gets back out to the parking lot, he finds that all of the logs have been taken off of his truck and used to impale said truck. That seems kind of petty for Superman, don't you think? Okay, so here's another one. General Zod at one point gets his like protective helmet knocked off, and because he's not, you know, physically adjusted to Earth's atmosphere and microbiology and all that kind of stuff, it starts to feel really painful to him. And Superman is like smiling, like taking pleasure in General Zod's pain. Superman should not take pleasure in someone's pain, even if that person is completely irredeemably evil. Another thing that you expect Superman to do a lot is basically he will break off from a fight at any given moment to try and save innocent people. So let's say Superman gets thrown by some big bad guy through a building or something like that. Rather than going straight back to punch that guy, he will go back into that building and make sure that nobody is hurt before continuing the fight. He doesn't do that in this movie. He spends very little time saving innocent people, and it doesn't feel like Superman. And here's the big one, and by the big one, I mean the really, really big spoiler, so you might want to, again, look away from this if you don't want to be spoiled. This is your last warning. So at the end of the movie, Superman has General Zod in like this super strength headlock, right? And he's basically putting the sleeper hold on him. When this has happened, they have crashed down into this train station, and there's this family of 4 standing off in a corner. I think it was 4 anyway. And General Zod like turns on his eye lasers, right? And he starts inching his eye lasers along the wall towards this family. And he's all like, Kal-El, if you want to save them, you'll have to kill me. So Superman snaps his neck. Yeah. That's... wow. I'm sure many of you have your own opinions about this, but I am of the belief that Superman should not kill people. And also, I really don't buy the notion that there was no other way to stop General Zod from killing that family than to kill him. Could he not have just flown directly upward while keeping him in the sleeper hold? Would that not have worked for some reason? And I don't want to blame any of this on Henry Cavill. Like I said, I think he does make a really good Superman on the occasions when he is allowed to be a good Superman. But his role was just written really poorly. Really, just about every role in this movie was written kind of poorly. Maybe poorly isn't the right word. Uninterestingly, I guess, would be a better word. For example, I know there are a lot of people that have been saying that Amy Adams doesn't make a very good Lois Lane. And to be frank, I don't know if she makes a good Lois Lane or not. Because the movie gives the Lois Lane character almost nothing of any kind of substance to do. I'm not saying she does absolutely nothing in this movie, but she just doesn't really have a distinct character. She's just kind of normal. That's really how you could describe about 95% of the characters in this movie. Just normal. Overall, I would have to say that there were a few moments in this movie that had me interested and had me enjoying myself, but those moments were really few and far between. Occasionally, I would find myself being irritated with some of Superman's decisions, and the rest of the time, I was just bored. This movie's really boring, and I just don't think it tells a very effective story. Like, the way that it's all put together is just kind of disorienting and weird. There's like some present day stuff mixed in with flashbacks, but then the present day stuff was also part of flashbacks. It's just, the composition's really off in this movie. I'm not gonna say it provided absolutely no entertainment for me, but on the worth meter, I'd probably just give it a worth sitting through. And it's a shame, because I was really, really hoping this was gonna be a good movie, and I just really don't think it is. And honestly, I think this is gonna be one of those movies that I like less and less the more that I think about it. I can't really bring myself to call it worthless, but this is the kind of movie that I just don't see anybody talking about like 2 months down the line. It's just boring. Really. One word summary, it's boring. Hopefully the rest of Superhero Month will provide a bit more entertainment and give me something a bit more interesting to talk about. But until that time, Code Monkeys, I will see you later. I've done this primarily because superhero movies have become kind of a staple of the summer Hollywood movie season. Awkward phrasing. I'm not saying she does nothing, but she just doesn't really act like a character. Hopefully Superhero Month will be giving me a